Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. It's true. The name, the magnets, all of it. It's all true. Dig Dogger hates a certain kind of sound, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society hates a certain kind of sound with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going great. I can't believe that this date is here. The moment is here.
January 16th. We never thought the date would come.
And yet, here we are.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a Nintendo Switch 2 reveal trailer. We get our first official look at the hardware.
Yep. And our first official look at the name.
And our first official look at
a new Mario Kart game?
A new Mario Kart? A rounder Mario?
Perhaps Mario is rounder now. This is Mario Kart Round. This is obviously we are convening off schedule to release an episode off schedule. So Mark, let's get on schedule and stop screwing around. Let's talk about this thing. Okay, so obviously rumors were abound, right? Nate the Hate. Thank you, Nate the Hate. I still dislike your name, and I can't believe we have to say it over and over again. But what was predicted came true, and Nintendo posted a video at like 5:15 this morning, Pacific time at any rate, that gave us our first official look at the Switch 2.
Yeah, and
we're breaking it down.
Yeah. One thing before we really get into it is that when you first... I'm just trying to figure out if Nintendo is being cute or if YouTube is broken. Because when you open the link to the trailer, it first shows that the video length is 2 minutes and 22 seconds.
Okay.
But then when it starts playing, it changes to 2 minutes and 21 seconds. So I don't know if it's
interesting.
If it's like a YouTube bug.
Uh-huh.
And it's really 2 minutes and 21 seconds.
Or if somehow Nintendo
was like, let's do this. Let's make the reveal trailer be 2 minutes and 22 seconds.
Well, now, I would believe that they were targeting 2 minutes and 22 seconds because I'm being proven right on some things and wrong on others, right? That, like, obviously 2025 is the year that the successor to the Nintendo Switch is coming out.
I can't believe that worked out for you.
That worked out for me. I've been calling it for, like, I don't know, like 5 years at this point, 4 years, a long time. But I was pretty adamant that they weren't going to call it the Switch 2. And not only are they doing that, but like in the iconography, the 2 is huge.
Yeah.
They want like the 2 is front and center here. They're almost selling a 2 more than they're selling a Switch.
I think they really have Wii U on the brain. And they're like, not again. We are going to make this as clear as we possibly can.
That this is a sequel to the thing and not a twist on it, or
like an OLED or something like that, like like a minor upgrade.
Right. Mark, where were you when this video? I mean, we were both snug in our beds when the video was posted. How were you first made aware of the fact that there was this trailer sitting out there waiting for you?
Well, the first thing I did when my alarm went off this
morning, alarm went off,
was I grabbed my iPad and I went to YouTube to see if it had happened.
You had just done this on your own volition.
Well, because, there were the rumors that it was going to drop today. And so I didn't want to, like, see anything about it or anything like discussion or how people were reacting to it if it had happened. So before I didn't want to grab my phone, see notifications or anything. I just wanted to check to see if it had actually landed and then watch it myself and then like loop back around to see what people were saying about it. What about you?
I mean, I rolled over, looked at my phone, saw there were like 17 notifications from Discord and was like, all right, well, I better go look. The Switch trailer is there. I got to just go check it out. And then I watched it on my phone. on the couch. Before like doing any sort of like morning wake up stuff. So I was quite groggy, and the first time I watched it was like, I don't really know what I'm like taking in from this, and then have, since it is only 2 minutes and 22 seconds, have watched it several more times throughout the day. Mark, I'm eager to talk to you about every single second of this thing, because there's we have a lot of information here.
Yeah, so maybe we should go through it first, like
Yes.
the major beats of the video, and then we can start analyzing it, sharing our, because we talked on Tuesday about what we thought the video might be, could
Right.
be, should have been.
Right, and here's another me taking L's, because like I was very much of the opinion that what they were going to do in showing off the Switch 2 for the first time was they were going to show us something experiential, people enjoying the Switch 2 in a way that they could not have enjoyed the original Switch or any other hardware. But this is profoundly not that. And we can talk about what that means or why we think that is or whatever. But I agree. Let's kind of let's go through this thing sort of beat by beat.
So, going along with the name being so explicit and this is something new, the trailer opens with a Nintendo Switch as it exists today.
Right. And then it like the Joy-Cons like pop out of it.
Yeah,
so
they slide out in the way that they,
That's right.
Slide out now where it has to be on rails. So they slide out and they're all kind of like floating in space.
Right. And this is all like, I'm not saying that they're like, your old Switch is garbage or boring and the new Switch will set you free. But like, there is a little bit of like, remember the old thing and now here's the new thing. So we, like the console sort of like transforms with the edges being like sanded off, and like new buttons and ports and stuff start to appear like all around the thing. We're obviously dealing with like a 3D render of the object at this point. We're not seeing photography of the Switch 2, but we see that the USB-C port that's on top of the machine that had been rumored, or at least like in part of the leaks.
Right, yeah.
And then we see sort of the new kickstand get sort of carved out. It provides as much coverage as the OLED one, but it seems like it's even a little bit deeper, right? Because it has like a big U shape to it that sort of takes up the entire back of the Switch, and has that like it's a more useful version of the kickstand, right?
And it's all everything's so round.
Sure.
Like I feel like it's all much more rounded. Like even the like the kickstand and all that kind of stuff just feels more round. And then after the kickstand, now it's the Joy-Cons turn to start transforming. And we see that the Joy-Con, at least that they're showing now, they're all that black gray color, and the only pops of color that are visible when the Joy-Con are connected to the system is like underneath the analog stick.
Sure. Right. Yes. Under the analog stick. And there's that sort of like in the part that connects to the Switch.
Yeah,
that
in
those
the
are,
rails.
Yes.
The or magnets, I
They're
guess.
not rails. Yeah.
Like that shares that color, and it's the same colors as the original launch Switch, like that red and blue.
Right. But not the gray and gray like you and I had purchased.
No, not
when
that
it
we've
originally
seen.
came out.
Yeah.
And I will note that the color of the Joy-Cons is not that dark gray of the original Joy-Con. It is instead a lot closer to the color of the Switch 2 itself.
Yep.
Which is like black just about.
And then the Joy-Cons start like sliding around the table, which maybe hints at some,
who knows,
optical mouse functionality.
Right.
That has been rumored.
Yeah, and we see while they're doing that, they are on the new like Switch handles, or like those grip things, which do look different for this, because they are like, or I guess this is the same, that like they share the color of like the
they're like
color under the
black.
stick. No, they're not.
Oh, they're not.
They're either red or
blue.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing about like the Joy-Con is it just looks so much nicer to use without the like the cover. What do you call
the grip? They call it? I think, right? Joy-Con grip.
The grip is like the two handle thing, but you know how when you have the when you just have one Joy-Con and they provide the whatever it's called that you are supposed to slide on top of it, and it makes those uh LR and RL, or you know what I'm
Yes,
talking about,
yes,
like
yes, I do.
those buttons, ZR and ZL, like those buttons more accessible. Um, on the
Joy-Con strap is what.
okay, yeah, the
Yes.
Joy-Con strap, yes. So, uh, on the Switch Joy-Con as they exist today, those two top buttons are so they're like flush with it, and
Yes,
like you can use it without the Joy-Con strap, but
but it's difficult.
it's so much easier to play
Right.
with the strap enabled because like the buttons actually become convex, and but the Joy-Con in the Switch 2 without the Joy-Con strap look like they'd be much more comfortable to play with just by themselves.
Yeah, well, and I think they're a little bit bigger too, right? Because we saw like the whole like shape of the Switch 2 grow. So I mean, I think that means that the Joy-Con are also growing to match it, right?
Yeah.
They're not smaller on the Switch 2 than this that same relationship on the Switch 1. We do see them snap into place differently, right? So we sort of see them like go in at an angle and then like close almost. And with no they're not on rails. Obviously, we know that they are magnetic, and there is like a little bit of a port or like pins or something that are like sticking out, so you know that it is like directly like hardwired into the Joy-Con from the Switch, which already makes me a little bit nervous where I'm like, that thing's gonna get gunk in it.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how it holds up.
Right.
Then we just get some beauty shots of the console as Nintendo Switch 2 appears on screen.
Right. Confirmation of the name Nintendo Switch 2.
And we see a little bit of the new dock
Mm-hmm.
as the Switch 2 slides into the dock, and we see that it's connected to a TV, and we're seeing some glimpses of a new Mario Kart game when all of this is happening.
And before we talk about Mario Kart at all, just the dock, which is also among the things that has been leaked already, does leave some screen real estate above the like edge of the dock that would still be revealed even while the machine is docked. So no word as to whether that's going to be active or can be active for like notifications or anything like that, but just some part of the screen is visible while docked.
Right. And the dock itself just seems like smaller and sleeker
Right.
than the existing Switch
It does
dock.
say Switch 2 on it, has the logo on it.
Yeah,
yes.
they really want you to
love
understand.
The 2. They're selling 2.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then as kind of like the final thing, the right Joy-Con kind of cheekily pops out.
Yes.
And then that's
and then clicks back
into place. And that's the end of like the footage for the most part.
Footage. All of that is obviously not, they're not doing stop motion animation with like a real Switch 2. All of that is like renders of it.
Right. When the right Joy-Con popped out at the end there, it kind of made me think of the January 2017 Switch reveal when they showed a little bit of Super Mario Odyssey. At this point, it wasn't the full blowout.
Right.
And, we saw New Donk City, and then at the end it shows Mario and Cappy's eyes appeared before we knew it was Cappy.
And that was it. Then we were like, what is that?
And so at my first thought when I saw it was like, oh, are they hinting that there's something more to the Joy-Con? But then I was thinking, oh, maybe it was just like a cute thing to show that also illustrates that the way it connects to that Joy-Con grip is different than, the Switch, that it's easier to just kind of like pop it in and out.
But like I mean, how easy do you want it to be to pop it in and
right.
out, right?
Oh yeah, and one thing I didn't mention, the Joy-Con grip looks basically identical to the existing Joy-Con grip. Except again, it says Nintendo Switch 2 on it with a really big 2.
Right.
But yeah, it's that like puppy dog style that has basically existed from the beginning.
Yep. Okay, and then after, and we get the new Mario Kart sort of footage, which I think we'll talk about in more detail after we like finish going through all of this. But then there's like a slide that's like confirms the backwards compatibility. Oh no, first 2025.
Yep. Get the year, confirms that, it's coming this year.
It's coming this year, and then a slide confirming backwards compatibility, which had already basically been confirmed. It says most Nintendo Switch titles.
Sorry, Labo.
Sorry, Labo. Sorry, maybe Ring Fit Adventure, because like that,
Right, requires that
it
Joy-Con.
requires
But
that
we
Joy-Con.
don't know if Switch Joy-Con will still work as
Right.
independent controllers, kind of in the way that the um, Wii remotes worked with the Wii U.
Right. I sort of assume that they will
Me
work, but
too.
you obviously just can't like connect them,
Yeah.
connect them directly to that Switch. Um, yeah, so most everything will be backwards compatible. And we saw a side by side of a pair of human hands holding a original Switch and the Switch 2, so you get just like a sense of the size difference. This is also the first and only time you see a human being or part of a human being in this trailer. Is these like still photos of hands holding holding the Switches, and then the announcement that a Nintendo Direct focused on the system will be held on April 2nd. There's another 2. They love these 2s, Mark. And that's it. Peace out. Trailer's over.
Yep.
Where would you like to go from here?
Okay. Well, let's just get all the news part of it out of the
Okay,
way,
great.
which is that they also announced that there's a Nintendo Switch 2 experience tour that's going to be held starting in April and will be in different cities throughout the world, April through the end of May. And so it's like there's New York, Los Angeles, Dallas, and then also Paris, London, Berlin, Milan, Toronto, Tokyo, Amsterdam, Madrid, Melbourne, Seoul, and Hong Kong and Taipei will all have these hands-on
Yes.
opportunities. And the way that they're doing tickets for this is that starting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time, you can go.
Wait, is it 9 or noon?
I think it's 9. I think it's
I
9.
thought it was I thought it was noon. Hold on, wait. I have it open on my phone.
Okay.
Okay, ticket registration begins January 17th at 12 Pacific time.
Okay, so noon.
Right.
Starts it, but it's not first come first serve. It's like you have a week or something to sign up,
and
then
it's
after,
lottery style.
and then it's lottery style. You have to have a Nintendo Switch Online subscription in order to sign up for it. And then if you are part of a Nintendo Switch Online like family account, you can sign up for you and like the 5 other people or whatever on the account.
Okay.
But so really
time
similar
to
to how
upgrade our
they did
accounts to family
yeah,
accounts.
possibly. Like, really similar to how they did the Nintendo Live when it was in Seattle a couple years ago.
Sure. Or recently what they've done with the Alarmo and with the Nintendo Switch Online playtest.
Yes. Yeah.
Except that
although
wasn't
those were first come
lottery,
first serve.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
So this is a lottery system, which means you don't have to worry about being first tomorrow to sign up. You can sign. I can't remember exactly the end date, maybe the 23rd or something like that. I think it's basically a week you have, and then they will do the lottery. Of course, I'm going to enter.
Of course, I'm going to enter. Yes.
But yeah, I think that's all the news.
Do they just give you a single ticket if you're
Yes.
selected?
Yeah. Again, that's how they did
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo Live.
That you couldn't even like add a
Only if they're part of your family account.
only if they're part of your family.
Yeah, there's no like +1 or anything.
That's stupid. But what are you gonna do? So yes, I mean obviously we're going to enter for the Los Angeles one because that's where we live. And that is the second of the events. The first one is the first 2 actually are in New York and Paris, April 4th through the 6th, and then the Los Angeles and London ones are the 11th through the 13th. You can check out the whole schedule on Nintendo websites. But yeah, so that is definitely something that I would like to get hands on with this thing. Why not?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, great. So where to now, Mark? That's all the news that came out today, right?
Okay, so on Tuesday, we had talked about what we thought the video should be, what we thought the video could be.
And maybe even what we thought the video would be, right?
Yes. And I think in all that discussion, I'm totally missed an obvious analog to what Nintendo did here, which is those, like, when Apple announces a new iPhone, they have this sizzle reel that is a CG render under reflecting light that they're, like, lovingly running the curves, and there's, like, pop music in the background, and everybody's oohing and awing at how cool this thing is. And I feel like that's the closest analog to what Nintendo did here.
Yes, I agree with that, and I think some of that speaks to the um more like mature way they're trying to market this thing, or that they're trying to market it as a more mature product. Um, we were discussing it a little bit in the Discord, and like kind of wild for me to think that like kids that are growing up that are like kids that are like 18, 17, 16 right now, when the Switch came out originally, they were 8, 9, or 10, right? That the original Switch came out when they were kids, when they were little, right?
Yeah.
And so now they want sort of something that those kids, those the people who adopted the Switch as their first console because they were young and not because they were coming back to games or whatever, now want something that is a little bit more sleek, a little bit more grown up, and I think this Switch 2 delivers that.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was Anthons in the
Yes.
Discord who was talking about, oh, like this reminded him of when his friends went from like the Nintendo 64 to the PlayStation 2, or
Or the
the
GameCube to the Xbox, right?
Yeah, where it's like, and I do think that it does seem like Nintendo is really conscious of that.
Right.
I would say that, but I feel like even the Switch was a move in that direction.
Oh, totally.
They don't have,
yes.
System music. One of the first things, there was a colorful option, but there was a non-colorful option.
Right.
And so it'll be interesting to see if this has those variations. Like, what do they, or
Yeah.
do they just launch with one SKU? Because it is kind of splitting the difference. It has splashes of color, but it is for the most part that like
a
black
monochromatic,
color.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and like just to your point of like the Switch itself being like a little bit more of a grown-up piece of tech, like especially compared to the Wii U gamepad, which had that like very plasticky, like Fisher Price almost quality to it, that like in my mind it's just been like a straight line of like, oh yeah, they're just like, it's becoming a more mature looking device. But if my onboarding point for Nintendo products was the Switch, then yeah, I could see where like now I view that as the baby toy, and I want something to be a little bit more refined, a little bit more adult.
Yeah, absolutely. It does make me. I have enjoyed the simplicity of the Switch's UI.
Yes.
But from the beginning, kind of lamented the loss of the playfulness, and the way that the Switch 2 looks on the outside makes me think that we're not looking at a return of a playful UI,
Yes.
with a caveat that we can talk about later. Or we can talk about now, which I think is that C button that
Right.
has been rumored and leaked, but is not in the render. The button itself is in this 3D render, but
But it
it's
is
not
not-
labeled C,
Right.
which is, I think, is one of the things that they're holding back for the April blowout. But the latest rumor is that the C stands for campus, and if you select it, it takes you to basically like group chat capabilities built in
Interesting.
to the Nintendo Switch 2. So maybe there's an opportunity there for a playful environment, but I am not thinking that it's going to be like a Miiverse type situation.
Right. But as with all things, we will see come April 2nd, right?
Yes.
All right. Now should we get into, I mean, do we want to talk like a little bit more like Mario Kart stuff, or what?
Well, the only other thing I want to talk about, like the
Yeah.
style of video, is you had mentioned it needs to be experiential. Once you said that, I was like, yep, that makes total sense. That obviously is not what happened here. So how do you feel about the way it was presented?
Yeah, I mean, I'm of course always very interested to see the new Nintendo product. I can't say that like this presentation of it like super excited me. And maybe some of that is that like all of this had leaked already. I don't think this was a bad trailer necessarily. And there's obviously some exciting stuff to talk about on like the Mario Kart front. And trying to deduce like what that says about like the ethos of like Nintendo now and going forward. But yeah, I mean, I was a little bit like, I don't know, I just want my Nintendo stuff to be a little bit stranger, or a little bit more like, I don't know, just a little bit warmer. This felt very like frosty to me, right? Like It was a very, well, look how cool this is, look how slick this is, but not look how cool or how fun you will look or how much fun you will have with it.
Yeah, I do
Is
think
that what you're thinking, or
so. I think that this style of reveal makes a lot of sense if the real world leaks hadn't happened. If like the leaks of the system
sure,
where we basically if you wanted to know what the Switch 2 looked like, it would be easy to find out, right?
right,
Even the date of the reveal leaked in what was clearly Nintendo was hoping, planning for it to be like a stealth dropped. Here it is,
right at 5 o'clock in the
at
morning.
5 o'clock in the morning. Here it is, and I think from that perspective, the all of it makes sense to me. Where it's like, okay, out of the blue, we're gonna hit them with this reveal, and then we're gonna tell them that in April they're going to see the big blowout.
Right.
But but obviously it didn't work out that way because everybody knew everything about it. And so it makes it a little it's hard to know how I would have reacted
If this was all
if
surprises,
because
yeah.
I do think that that original Switch trailer did an amazing job of selling what the Switch was going to be, like that
Mhm.
hybrid console, but it wasn't playful. It was people having fun experiences, but it wasn't like like it wasn't a jokey trailer or
No, but
anything.
there's
And like Alarmo reveal was
right.
also not like, you know what I mean? Like it's such a I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying it is interesting the tone that some of these things that like you look at and you're like, "Oh, I guess like the Alarmo reveal was pretty cut and dry for a product
Right,
that
right,
is pretty silly." You know what
right.
I mean?
Yes.
And so that tone is really interesting to me.
Well, and I don't. I guess I don't mean to present like those trailers that I or like the original Switch trailer as silly, but like it is active and fun, right?
Yes.
Like it is very specifically showing the thing in the world and people enjoying it, right? Um, and so you would see at a park, on a plane, on a at a roof deck party, and this Switch too we don't see in the real world at all.
Yeah, it's very
We arguably don't even actually see it.
right. It is funny to go from, with the Switch being like, here is why this thing is cool, and
Right.
it's the fun that you will be able to have with this new way of playing. And the Switch 2 really is about the look of the thing. The Switch 2 reveal really is just about selling the idea of like
Right.
this is new. But I also think that speaks to what we've talked about in the past, where it's like where Nintendo is in the need for innovation,
Right.
because coming out of the Wii U, and not just coming out of the Wii U, like whether the Wii U was a big success or not, the Switch is a evolution of that just made sense and was a
Right.
new way of gaming.
Right. At the time they had to reinvent the wheel
Exactly.
and then show us the new wheel. Now it's just like the wheel is rounder.
The wheel is round and nobody's competing with the wheel.
Right. Yeah.
No hybrid exists right now, so they don't need to come up with something new. Maybe after Switch 2 they will need to,
Right.
right? But right now they don't. And in some ways, I love Weird Nintendo. I was hoping that, they had a big surprise for us, or, that the name would be something fun and different and all that kind of stuff. But at the
That
end
it
of
would be something that they would say and we'd go, yes.
yeah,
Yes, that's
exactly.
right.
But at the end of the day, maybe it's better that they're not forcing it in the way that the Wii U felt so
Sure.
like forced.
Yeah. Well, and also this is just very clear, right? What it is. That like Switch 2 communicates the next one of these things.
Mhm.
And especially because they've been so careful with like Switch Lite definitely like denotes a like lesser than product. OLED edition, or OLED version, or whatever the OLED version is called, is like such a clear like offshoot, and then Switch 2 is just like, no, this is the next one.
Yeah.
It's just being very obvious and clear in a way that Nintendo has never done before, right?
Right.
So I don't know, like I'm not mad at this thing at all, but
It's definitely
I
not the
want
fun
yes,
part.
it's not the fun part.
It like
yes.
it's nice to have this out there and to have the confirmation, But for me, the nicest part of it is the confirmation of when we'll hear about it next.
Yes.
Like that we don't have to speculate about that. And it's just like, oh, April 2nd.
It's a Wednesday. We can we can all just get ready for that,
Yeah.
and then have we can take Wednesday off and set a record time for that, and just go crazy with this new like with details about this thing and whatever its launch lineup
Yeah,
is
I
going
feel
to be.
like it's almost just relief, like having this release valve of, okay, it's out there.
Yes.
I feel like that's an important milestone. It's not very an exciting milestone, really, but
No,
it is important.
it is important. As long as we're on like April 2nd right now, and we've talked a little bit about the hands-on events going all the way through June 1st. What do you think this says about the release date for the Switch 2?
I think it says that it is in like early June.
Yes. So the last one of these, or I guess we don't know when Hong Kong and Taipei, but the Seoul one is May 31st through June 1st, which sort of implies to me that like it could be the end of that week, right? Or even do you think it's possible that the thing releases before the last of these ends?
I do think it's possible because I don't think it hurts them at all to have these hands-on events, even if the Switch 2 is released, because
Right.
people may not be ready to buy one, immediately
Totally.
at launch, but still want to check it out. And so I don't think it hurts for them to have these events. Really, what I'm basing my timing on more is the time from the Switch's January 2017
Right.
like blowout presentation, which was like the middle-ish
It's like
of
45
January.
days.
Yeah. And then launched at the beginning of March. So if we say that the blowout here is going to be
April 2nd.
in April, then 45-ish days would be the middle
Middle
of
of
May
May,
to like
right.
the beginning of June. In fact, let's see, October, November, December, January. So yeah, it is basically following
Mm-hmm.
the timeline of the Switch reveal to the Switch launch, assuming that it does actually
Right.
launch mid-May or beginning of June.
We're about 45 days from the April 2nd event right now.
Right.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I sort of
Yeah,
think
from like reveal
Mhm.
October 2017 to January blowout to early March.
That was 3 months though. I mean, like
Yeah, but that's
October to November, December, January.
Isn't that basically what will be for
That's 90 days. That's
April?
twice as long. Well, April 2nd, okay, is I guess you're right that is about to. Oh, I mean, whatever.
But you know
Yes.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think roughly, I'm just saying roughly, I think the timing is could be
Similar,
very
yes.
similar to what we saw on the Switch.
Mhm.
I do not think at this point that it's going to be a fall
No,
2025
I don't think
release.
so either. I don't think so either. Well, it seems like way too early to do hands-on impressions of this thing if they're not planning to release it until holiday, right? Like I think it's going to be a summer release. And yeah, why not the so either the like May the 30th, which would be a Friday, or like June 6th, which is the next Friday. Those are my two guesses right now. Or the Thursdays if Nintendo is a Thursday company as far as hardware is concerned. But who knows? Okay. So those are just that's what we think about release dates now. Would you like to talk about Mario Kart?
Yeah, let's talk about Mario Kart.
Okay, so we see precious few seconds of a new Mario Kart game, and we know it's a new Mario Kart game because different track. We're seeing a brand new track called Mario Bros. Circuit. We can see that like on the starting line thing, and there's again like precious few details that we get in this thing. We see a lot of Mario characters, including Donkey Kong, who looks a little bit different.
Yeah, I think he looks exactly like the movie Donkey Kong.
He looks a lot like the movie Donkey Kong. I think he is a little bit. His arms are bigger. He looks a little bit more like classic arcade cabinet like Donkey Kong to me. And then we also see way more racers on the track than we would normally see in a Mario Kart game.
I think we see more, like at the starting line, more spaces for racers.
So we definitely do, but we also like throughout the footage in that opening shot, we see 12, right? We see 12 racers, and then in like the subsequent shots where like the camera sort of like scooching around, we see some other characters that were not in that initial 12. So the thinking is that there
Oh,
are more than 12 racers on a track at a time.
yep. And I know that there are already analysis videos out here
Yes.
for the like. I saw that there was one. I haven't watched it. Of there's like a 30-minute one from Good Vibe Gaming, and I saw somebody else post a screenshot of like, did you see there's like a Yoshi hamburger
Yes.
stand that
Yes.
looks like Yoshi, and underneath the awning is this little glowing
Yes.
thing.
Right. Well,
Like,
and do you see the speculation that that's a Wonder Seed? So the speculation I
oh,
was reading was that it is a Wonder Seed because the Wonder Seeds in the desert area are glow in yellow. And like Mario and like all the character designs, which again we don't get a super good look at, but people look all the characters look a little bit like rounder, a little bit like softer.
which is a little bit like the Super Mario Brothers Wonder
Yes.
aesthetic, which would follow kind of what we were talking about in the episode that released earlier this morning about new Super
Are we
Mario
putting out too many podcasts?
new Super Mario Brothers,
Yes.
like that becoming the Mario aesthetic for so long. And I
Mhm.
wonder if Super Mario Brothers Wonder is like the first of a new aesthetic for Mario that will continue in this new Mario Kart game.
Right, right. Well, and you had mentioned that the Donkey Kong to you looks like the movie Donkey Kong, which like he kind of does. And I wonder if all of that, like all of these design elements from Wonder and the movie, are all like kind of converging into a new Nintendo aesthetic that's not quite Wonder, not quite movie, but just a little bit less new Super Mario Brothers.
A little bit more cartoony.
Yeah, which I like.
Yeah, totally. The idea that it's a Wonder Seed is really exciting.
Yeah.
What if it's like Mario Kart Wonder
Mario Kart Wonder would be. I mean, that's exciting. That's a very exciting
and it like
possibility.
transforms
It
the
transforms
tracks
the tracks.
or something?
Yeah.
That
Well,
could be very cool.
so there in the again very limited footage that we see of this Mario Bros circuit, which is in like a desert that looks a lot like American West sort of desert. Yeah, so that sort of atmosphere, that sort of biome. We can see that the track, like the paved track, like kind of curves off to the left, and there are like grandstands on the left.
Yeah, so
where-
it looks like it's almost like an F1 circuit
Yes,
type setup.
but immediately there are chevron arrows pointing to the right, and the carts go off road right
I
away.
didn't see that.
Um,
Ooh.
so like, is that something where you have to on the next lap through, like stop at the Yoshi cafe or whatever, Yoshi burger stand, hit the Wonder Seed, and then like the whole thing transforms, or are there multiple paths through these tracks? What is happening here? I think we should believe that the worlds of these tracks are a little bit more like modular, or there's some like sort of element of variety that has not been explored, because nothing has really been explored yet. But I just think some of that's in there.
And if it is 24 racers on a track, it just feels like the tracks are going to have to be bigger.
Well, and the track does seem very wide, right? That is one of the things that is evident from watching this footage, at least at the beginning of this, that the track is very wide.
But if they are Wonder Seeds that transform or not, like that seems like an interesting way for them to differentiate it from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
I agree.
If it is Mario Kart subtitle rather than Mario Kart 9 or Mario Kart 10, and they have like a differentiator like that, because Mario Kart to me is a bold game to, in some ways, to lead with, just because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe still sells so
Right,
well and
yes.
is like so successful,
And it's such a definitive statement of that product.
and will still be playable on Switch
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
That on the one hand, it's like, well, everybody loves Mario Kart and people have been playing it since this version since 2017. So maybe everybody is ready for the next one. But also, I think you run the risk of it just feeling like, oh, but I already have Mario Kart.
Right. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. So it feels like there's got to be a hook.
There has to be a hook, and also wasn't that like the rumor forever that like the next Mario Kart is in development and it has a unique hook to it?
Yeah, that is.
So like is it maybe it was only within the last like couple of years that they were like, hey, this Wonder Seed thing that we're working on over here, is a good way to like implement the hook that we're doing.
Did we
What do
do
you?
an entire episode
We
where
did.
we pitched what
Yes.
that hook could be?
Mark, I think we did that in like 2021 or something. We've been talking about what the next whatever will be forever.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, so then beyond all this, we just see like basic Mario characters and some standard Mario Kart carts and bikes and stuff, but also some new that are like not identified like existing Mario Kart stuff.
And all of it to me just looks a little rounder, like a
Sure.
little bit more cartoony.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's hard to gauge from this like video if we're getting like a higher fidelity of Mario Kart 8 looks so beautiful as it is, but some of like the DLC tracks from the Booster Course Pass have like are just like a little bit chunkier and like the textures aren't as good or whatever. And this looks beautiful, but like it's not like in terms of like power or demand. Technical demand doesn't seem like it's that much greater.
Hard to tell.
Hard to tell.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, it about Mario Kart. I do think the idea of having 24 racers, and that sort of combined with the C button being like a campus button, it makes me wonder if we have a stronger focus here with online features and bringing 24 players into an online lobby to play Mario Kart together is going to be a more demanding lift than having 12.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe this thing has a slightly more online focus, but April 2nd.
Think how crazy a 24-person battle mode could be.
It would be nuts. Yeah.
It could be really fun. Let me ask you this. The rumor is that the Joy-Con, or at least one of the Joy-Con, has some sort of optical mouse capability.
Right.
And, do you think that if Mario Kart 9, or whatever it ends up being called, is a launch title, that it will incorporate it somehow?
Oh boy, for Kart, that seems a little strange, right? Like I'm not really sure how it would. It is, we saw the Joy-Con sort of like scooting around as though they're computer mice. How do we pluralize mouse?
I don't know.
Great. But regardless, we see them scooting around as though they are mice, but then it leads into Mario Kart footage. So like it's not totally clear if they're just like gearing it that's like a hype up for Kart or if they are confirming mouse functionality. I would say that's still an open question.
For sure.
But yeah, I wouldn't expect Kart to use it unless there's like something that we speculated before, a Mario Kart Maker. If there's like a kart or a track generating thing and you can use the mouse to like draw that out, that would be cool. But yeah, I mean, I think, no Nintendo system launches with just one game, right? There's always like another one.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe this will be the Pilot Wing 64 to the Mario 64 will, there'll be something that does take advantage of that mouse. Mark, I don't know if you remember this. In fact, I think you were out of town and it was an episode I was doing with Jeremy Schmidt, friend of the show, that somewhere in the Nintendo Switch Online like back end during one of the more recent updates that mouse support was like, or if not added to NSO, was like at least like enabled or something. And at the time I was like, are they going to drop the Super NES mouse and put Mario Paint and Jurassic Park on the Super NES? And of course that didn't happen, but are these the mouses for that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can I ask a really dumb question?
Yeah.
Like, what would the gameplay applications of having an optical mouse capabilities on the Joy-Con be?
I mean, first-person shooter stuff, and any sort of creative suite, right? Like, if you're doing something in Mario Paint, if you're doing something in Mario Maker, I do think one of the big downsides of Mario Maker 2 is that like there was no like touch screen interface to do like quick and dirty editing of stuff. You couldn't draw things; you had to like place them tile by tile. And if you could do it with a mouse, that precision is
That part,
nice.
that part I can totally see. First person shooters, I'm trying to think how that would work because usually like a keyboard and mouse implies that you're using your other hand to like manipulate buttons, and there's not really a
Well, but
like what would you do?
except with a keyboard and mouse for a shooter, you're controlling like moving forward and back and strafing left and right with WASD, right? And if you're just doing that with your right
Oh,
thumb,
analog, yeah.
and then or your left thumb, sorry, and then with your right hand like aiming and like turning, and then having like triggers, on either one of those things.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The slightly larger, like all of the buttons seem a little bit larger on the Joy-Con, right? And I think it would be possible to then, make the uh, R trigger like the sort of main,
Right.
like click your. I guess the problem is like that's a right click, right? And like left click is sort of the main. Well, whatever. I mean, these are all things we'll figure out as we go. But,
Totally. That's yes. Lots more to be revealed.
right. But I mean, like Civ 6 is coming. 6? Is that right?
I don't know. Yeah,
one of them.
Yeah.
It came out of my mouth and I was like,
But you're right. No, you're totally right. It's not
Yeah.
that that's a good example of where it could be totally useful. Is those types of like sim games or anything that requires like really like a point and click adventure game,
yep.
right? Like instead
The
of
next
having to
Famicom
use
Detective Club.
right.
The next Fire Emblem,
Uh-huh.
right? Like, I mean, there are, just because we've not really had a Nintendo mouse since 1992 doesn't mean that they can't come up with a way for it to be a compelling piece of kit for new software.
Yes, I would just expect a launch title at least
Me too.
to take
Yes.
advantage of it in like a surprising way.
Tell you what, this is right for a WarioWare title, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
A point and click WarioWare game
Uh-huh.
could be cool. I
Could
don't
be
know.
cool.
I don't know. So yeah, that's cool. I'm excited to see if there's there obviously must be more. I wonder like when the direct, because they're calling it a direct, right? And let's drill in on that language for a little bit, because Nintendo Directs tend not to be, the last Switch like a blowout was just a presentation, a live press conference, right? With people on a stage. Do you expect that of this, or do you think it'll be like a tightly produced video package?
I think it's going to be a tightly produced video package.
Yeah.
Again, I think Nintendo as a company is in such a different place than it
Absolutely.
was for that January reveal for the original Switch. And so yeah, I expect it to be tightly produced. We've never had like a hardware direct before, right? Like we've gotten reveal videos for the OLED and the light and everything,
Right.
but I don't think we've really gotten a
Yeah.
direct of this nature.
That's a good point.
And so it will be interesting to see. Although a lot of the stuff they did in that January Nintendo Switch like reveal, some of it was pre-recorded.
Yes.
And there wasn't really anything that they couldn't do in although I guess we have had hardware reveals in videos back in the pre-direct era, or even like, like for the Nintendo 3DS where they had, instead of developers come on stage, they had third-party developers in like a sizzle reel. So I guess it's not unprecedented. It's just different from how they did it on the Switch.
Well, and whatever. We talked about this earlier today, but they have not revealed a new like piece of hardware that is like the next thing in 8 years. So we're in unprecedented territory. The Switch 2 is perhaps one of the top 10 revivals, right?
right.
Just because it's been so long since the last time they did one of these. My brain sort of caught up with me now. Metroid Prime 4 mouse support.
Oh yeah,
Also
interesting.
I mean, just considering that Metroid Prime 3 had that like pointer control support.
Oh yeah, the Wiimote
Mhm.
control scheme was a big selling point of it.
So, and that could also be like a little bit of a like backdoor for that sort of control scheme to work on Switch, not or on Switch 2, which, like the original Switch had a bunch of Wii games that they made work on. Like Skyward Sword is one example of a game mostly using those like pointer and waggle controls. not even waggle, but like specific gestures. Um, but this could maybe be even a little bit more precise
I
in
wonder
that
if the
regard.
IR sensor makes it.
Great question.
Do you know what has not been rumored and but so we don't know the answer to it is there a camera, and you know how on the
Mm.
console itself, and you were saying on the Switch 2 dock how there's a little bit of like it peeks out.
Yes.
I wonder if that's for a camera.
Oh, interesting. So that it would be like seeing your living room.
I guess so, yeah.
Hmm.
Maybe in an alarmo type way where it's
Sure.
not
So it's
like
not actually video. It's not taking video.
exactly.
It just
It's just
knows.
sensing your
Right.
like movement, because maybe it's losing the IR sensor on the
Oh, interesting.
right Joy-Con, but they're putting it somewhere else. I don't know.
The if we are losing the IR sensor, not a big loss, right? But that would contribute to the not all games are going to be backwards compatible. If you don't have the IR sensor, you can't do like 1-2 switch. You can't do some of the WarioWare games where like you do like rock paper scissors in front of the IR sensor. And then of course Labo, like all of that. But Labo also involves you putting the physical Joy Cons and the physical Switch into your builds a lot. And if they're bigger, they're just not going to work with that anyway.
And also maybe the original Joy-Con will still work, so you could play
Sure.
those games in backwards compatibility, but only if you have your original Switch Joy-Con.
All right. I think we've covered every possible angle of this thing, including I think we've done everything. They're selling a 2, Mark.
They're selling a 2. What cost? Any guesses? I don't even want to hazard a guess. I can't even tell.
It will be either $400 or $450. I don't think it'll be a $500 product.
Because the OLED is $350, right?
Yeah, right. So like it's got to be more expensive than that. And it's also just like the original Switch launched at $300 8 years ago. The new one should be $100 more, at least.
Yeah, I think that's a good guess. I would not be completely shocked if it's $500, but I would be very surprised.
Okay, so we will obviously be talking about the future of Nintendo and of the Switch and the Switch 2 in weeks to come, months to come, whenever.
I have one more thing to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that this opens the door for them to do a Nintendo Focus Direct.
This is actually a Switch Focus Direct?
Switch Focus Direct.
Right. It would be weird if Nintendo did a non-Nintendo. Well, I guess they've done it before with partner showcases. But this is actually what I was leading up to.
Oh, okay.
Is, do you think that we have room then in February, the traditional February Direct slot, for a Direct either focused on a specific game, specific games, or just like a full-fat Nintendo Direct that's like there's no specific mention of the Switch 2, but all these games will be playable on Switch 2.
Yeah, I 100% think so. Because we know that they're going to keep releasing Switch games throughout at least this entire year and probably into next year. And we don't really have a schedule for that. And usually the beginning of the year is when Nintendo lays out at least the first 6 months. And I absolutely expect that for the Nintendo Switch. And I think they have the freedom to do it now because they've revealed the Switch 2. Again, that pressure valve has been released.
Right.
So now they can say, like you mentioned, hey, here are the games coming to Switch. These will all be playable on Switch 2. And then we know the date when they're going to talk about Switch 2 again. And it feels like all those pieces are in place for them to freely talk about Switch games that are going to be coming. Plus, one of the rumors recently is that Pokemon Presents will happen on Pokemon Day in February like it always does. But that those games will just be for Switch. They won't announce anything that's Switch 2. And again, I think that will be fine.
Right. Well, so we got Pokemon Legends Z-A coming out at some point this year. I suspect that will be a regular old Switch title, and maybe even coming out around like summer as well. Like maybe that'll be an April, May, June kind of game. And that. Well, what do you think? Do you think the next generation of like mainline Pokemon? Do you think that is Switch or Switch 2 exclusive? It's got to just be Switch,
my
right?
My guess would just be Switch.
I don't know how going forward Nintendo will make determinations on what platforms their games are for. Like whether it's releasing games for.
Right.
Because the Switch install base is so large. Why would you want to sell Switch 2 games unless they were going to be games that would make people go, well, I have to get the new one?
Right. And I think that will be the balance.
Yep.
Because I expect that the type of Switch releases we're going to get are like what we saw in 2024, where it's like ports and it's, more, for lack of a better term, B tier efforts. There's still Metroid Prime Beyond. Like, it's not that it's going to be a complete wasteland, but I just don't expect it to be of the same caliber as what they are going to be putting out for the Switch 2.
Yeah. And then, of course, like these sort of like persistent rumors have been that they are and have been working to produce these units like en masse. I had read figures like that Nintendo was prepared to sell 20 million of these in 2025, which is a lot. That's way more than they sold Switches in the first year. So, like, is this thing going to be as supply constrained? That's another thing that we're just going to have to wait and see. How are they going to handle pre-orders? Are they going to be selling it through Nintendo.com? Or is it going to have to be all like partner related?
If you're a Nintendo Switch Online subscriber, will you get an
part of
early
it?
crack at it? What of Nintendo Switch Online on the Switch 2? There are still so many questions, even though we've now had some more stuff confirmed.
Yes, that's right. Well, and like that was a confirmation with the backwards compatibility that physical and digital games will be playable on Switch 2. But is that app considered the same thing as like
do those libraries game? Are those libraries going to roll over?
Right.
What still what new thing are they going to add to Nintendo Switch Online to make it attractive to upgrade to Nintendo Switch 2?
Right.
Tetris 100. Tetris 199.
Oh, now that I like. I just think at that point you just call it Tetris 200 because it's Switch 2, right?
Right.
So you just do a 200. Okay. Mark, we've done it. Let's close this out. How's that, by the way, for like ratio of video length to discussion about it? We've gone for an hour.
Oh, nice.
On a 2 minute and 22 second.
Good for us.
Good for us. I think we did it. If you think we didn't do it and there's more that we needed to say, email us Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com.
And if you are not already in our Discord, you should email us there and I will send you an invitation. Also, you can head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society, where you can support us and get all the content that we have up there. Thank you to everyone who supports us there. And if you want to follow us for free over there, you also get access to our listener feedback episodes that are about the games that we're playing for NCS Arcade. That's all for free. Just follow us there and you'll get that extra stuff. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers, saying thank you for listening.